Hello, everyone. Thanks for the round of applause. A lot of pressure here. Thank you for giving us the stage. We're going to be talking today about a hot topic that's been around the table for many years. I remember last year I was exactly here in Technic. There was a round table on this subject. There was as well David Rose from the New York Angel Investors. A lot of initiatives took place at that time. I remember clearly David Rose wanting to open his platform of New York Angel Investors to startups in the region here as well. So we can see a lot of initiatives taking place. However, we know this comes with a lot of challenges. I don't know if we're being able to get through the other side. We know some of those challenges could be about cultural differences, about being able to do certain due diligence as well, to be able to understand the needs of different markets. But definitely, it maybe also as well legal challenges sometimes, but definitely this comes with a lot of opportunities for the investors, for the startups as well. May I tell you about the audience a little bit? So it cross all the continents, actually. So Lachlan is from Australia. He used to work in Australia and now in Dubai. Kio from the US all the way to the Africa continent. Paula, Turkey, Dubai, and Nina from Slovenia. So if may I start with you, Nina, about you being president of the Business Angel of Slovenia. Are you being able to take initiatives in the regard of cross-border angel investing? And do you see an appetite from the investors wanting to invest outside their borders?
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, we are actually working across border for last 3 to 4 years really intensively. We had the same problem like every country had, which is lack of trust towards the others who are outside. Nevertheless, they are also angel investors, visit, etc. So they're smart people. They know their job, but we don't know them. That was the main issue. So we started with a strategy of cross-border visits, so site visits. We built a relationship with many people around Europe and also with the Med Angels. And only with one purpose. So if people know other people, they become, first of all, colleagues. Further on, they become friends, and they gain the trust. And therefore, we made the partnerships with those people on the other side. And those partnerships are actually the best diversification that happened to our network. Our angels are now investing across the Europe, USA, Baltic region, and also a bit of MENA region. And we figured out this is the best formula to do it. And last but not least, people figured out that the best way that happened, the best actually thing that happened to them with angel investing is these partnerships. Because finally they managed to make a portfolio that is huge enough and that is purely diversified, not just from the region point of view, but also from a mentality point of view, culture point of view. In the end, everything reflects in money.
So, as you are saying, I guess the key factor of success here is networking with as many people as possible. So, I will tell you something. For example, in Lebanon, I work in Lebanon, so we tried to establish the first angel investment group in 2016. So there wasn't even business angels. We had to train as well how to invest in early stage startups. What's the logic and dynamics behind this? So we've certainly come from a very far place. We established in 2016, 17, 18, 19 we stopped because of the crisis. Those angel groups are still there. They are still working together. However, now we want to establish back again to the next angel investment program. And this time we need to make it cross-border and to be able to attract investors from outside the country and to invest as well in outside the country, because this brings opportunities and creates value for the economy more than you could imagine. It's not only about putting the money where it is. When you, for example, establish, when you invest in a company that is outside of your country, you might as well invite those people to open offices there, to penetrate a new market in your own country. So networking is definitely the key factors of success here. I would like to go to Paola here. So you are the CIO of Injaz Capital in Dubai. You are from Turkey as well, and you're on the World Business Angel Investment Forum and this. Were you able to link the bridges here from Turkey to Dubai in terms of the investors or the startup side?
You mean a comparison?
Sorry?
You mean a comparison of the startups and...
Yeah, I would like to hear about comparing the two sides, but also from working in Dubai, are you being able to attract, for example, investors from Turkey or from the World Business Angel Investment Forum as well? And how is it going at Injaz in terms of investing? Is it investing only in Dubai or outside as well in the whole region of the GCC?
Well, I think investment-wise, it's more the other way around. Usually investment from GCC goes to Turkey rather than from Turkey to GCC. I think that Turkey, despite I'm from there, I'm not really an expert on the Turkey startup scene. I'm just following because I'm very interested. And it's very intense, I would say, and there are a lot of successful fintech companies coming out of Turkey. I think that that's one area of specialization, that the country has extremely advanced open banking and tons of fintech startups that turn to successful companies. So I think that those type of companies attract investment not only from GCC but actually globally. And more of us as a firm, we're focusing on public markets, so it's mostly global, Europe and US, and also in terms of private equity, also we're looking at US. So yeah, that in terms of there's so much to talk about, like it's a very broad topic, but I think that both Turkey and Dubai established themselves as startup capitals, especially UAE. That's something I can definitely talk a lot about. Just the ecosystem is built very startup friendly, so it's very easy to create a company. Even the legal setup allows also foreign ownership, which is something very important, especially coming to angel investing, because here the topic is like cross-border, and when it comes to cross-border, as angel investors, we can take the risk of a foreign country and being a foreign owner in that country, right? So everywhere there are specific laws which sometimes are not so friendly. And you might end up, let's say the company is going for IPO, but you cannot sell your shares for certain reasons. So I think that these are risks to be considered, investing in certain countries, like the currency risk, the local law and regulation potential risks. And I think that Dubai is one of the great things that they did is like having the international regulation system and being very open and both startup and investors friendly.
So besides the networking, so the legal structure and how it facilitates the investment, this is another important factor of success for cross-border angel investing here. Kio, you had an experience in the US investing in Latin America. Can you talk to us a little bit about this, and how do you think this can be replicated in regions like in Africa or the Middle East? I understand you are working on an initiative as well here across many countries in Africa.
Yeah, so I'll break that down kind of into different but related silos. So when it comes to the LATAM market, so the firm that I'm with, August Hill, we started as an advisory firm, and then we started layering in a VC firm dedicated to early stage investing. So we're the only US fund that's 100% investing into the LATAM market. Because we saw a ton of opportunity there. at the early stages. So, valuations were highly attractive. We were able to get, a healthier chunk of the company investing in those markets versus a very saturated market like the U.S. So that's not necessarily related to angel investing. It's more related to, cross-border investing, right? And a lot of I would say half our LPs are split between the U.S. and Latin America, with a heavy concentration in Mexico. And then to switch over, so just for context, I'm based in Belgrade, Serbia. I've been living there for 3.5 years, and the tech scene is growing quite quickly there. However, the first business angel group was just founded in 2021, very nascent. So it's still a concept, and a lot of the people that are currently in the group now, they were former entrepreneurs who have been successful, and because the ecosystem there is coming on strong, they got pulled into being business angels. But part of that challenge is they don't know anything about investing in tech, right? So how do you build mechanisms and support programs where they understand the type of questions they need to ask as an investor, and then also understanding what they're investing in. So one of the more recent, I would say, events that happened is I'm connected to Iban, Marcel sitting here as well. He's one of the main guys, I would say, and I was able to I joined the local business angel network in Serbia as of last month. We are now part of IBAN, and I want to continue to do that work across the Western Balkans. You've got a country like Bosnia that doesn't even have an angel network, as an example, right? So I started conversations there with several people. So we got to figure out what the next steps there. So I think it's building the local network, pulling organizations like IBAN in to provide greater exposure and connectivity, and that's how you start, growing this network where you open up opportunities for cross-border investments. And then in terms of the work that I do across parts of Africa, I would say that's more related to, currently anyways, supporting startups as a mentor or an advisor, and startup programs. So usually what I'll do is I'll come in and do a couple workshops. Some of it's on growth and scale, because that's a lot of where my background comes in. And then the other aspect of it is getting your business, ready for fundraising. Do you actually need a fundraise? And getting them ready to have conversations with investors. Because my perspective is, and my background, I was been on the other side. Like, I've been an entrepreneur. I helped build and scale tech companies over a decade. So I've got that background, but having, I would say, pivoted to more on the investor side over almost 2 years, I can see both sides of it and help bridge that gap, because I talk to a lot of founders who don't necessarily understand what it means to take on, institutional capital, how to get it, and how that changes how you run your business. So that's how I'm helping support with cross-border investments.
Yeah, definitely there is a gap, and mentoring is very important. I met earlier today the founder of Mentors International. I don't know, he said he will be here, but I can't see him. But anyway, he was able to build a network in 42 countries, helping founders to access international markets, international investors, helping them to fundraise, to penetrate markets outside of their current presence. So mentoring and building the right mechanisms, especially in countries and in regions where the infrastructure is not like in Dubai. It's not like in Dubai, like Paula said. You're in Dubai as well, Lachlan. What can you tell us about this? Your main investors, I guess, comes from the GCC. GCC, they like to invest inside the GCC and add value to their region and to their countries. Do you think this is a good way to go, and are you able to overcome certain challenges and investing across the GCC and outside of it?
Yeah, maybe I'll give like a little bit of background to our fund and then kind of where we see the challenges and opportunities. So we are, as you said, a Dubai-based fund. We sit within a larger asset management firm that runs a few different fund strategies across debt and equity. We're a $40 million fund that focuses on B2B business models, and we invest at pre-seed through to Series A in region, and then we can invest in Series A and B outside of the region, which is a little odd, but it kind of, the rationale behind that actually speaks to the topic of this presentation. We feel like we can go earlier stage in region because of the connectivity through to some of the angel networks. That is harder to do in the US without boots on the ground. And so, you know, why have we set an investment strategy that invests across so many different borders? Well, we're sector focused or business model focused on B2B software, and we think that gives us flexibility to specialize without having too small of an investment universe. The challenges with that are access to investments when you're looking across so many different markets, and then sort of diligence and management of those opportunities, because every market has nuances that you can't really be across unless you're in them. And so a large source of deal flow for our early stage MENA bracket of the fund is working with angels. I would say 30% of our investments have kind of come through that network. And so it's not just about sourcing, it's then sort of working with those angels to help us through diligence, to understand that market if we haven't invested in it before, and then quite often taking advisory roles after we've invested. Now that's kind of a one-way flow of deal with us sort of leveraging angels, but cross-border investing, I guess, is a two-way concept. And a sort of a recent trend that we've noticed I think is quite interesting is where we've worked with angels that we think have very unique expertise, usually in a vertical, sometimes where they sort of, you know, had their success and then continued investing. If we're looking at a business model in their sector in another country, we might look to bring them in as an investor as well. So that's a little bit of sort of how we work across the region.
Thank you, Lachlan. I would like to add one more thing. So I would like to tell you a story. So you are familiar with Lebanon. This was a country that was booming a couple of years ago, like in 2015, 16. It was a very dynamic hub, second place in the region behind the UAE, a lot of talent. So what happened is the capital was coming mainly from the Lebanese banks, which when it collapsed, we ended up without any capital. So this is why investing and cross-border investing is important for the local economies as well, because if we had capital coming from outside the country, this would have helped maintaining the ecosystem. So now what happened is suddenly overnight everything disappeared. No money, no startups, no talent. Everyone wanted to leave the country as well. Even infrastructure problem, we already have legal complexities. What about staying without electricity for a while, without internet sometimes? So it was pretty much very difficult on the local startups to survive. So they needed capital to be able to continue their journey. We established a fund called Save Our Startups Fund. Whatever money we had left from the investors, we poured it into those startups to help them establish a presence outside of the country. But this came while keeping their team present in the country, adding value, having access to funds, to international investors, to new markets, and they ended up adding a value to the local economy as well. So accidentally, we paved the way to a new thing for Lebanon, that is, we have a startup today that would be established in Dubai, for example, with investors from Lebanon, maybe, or Turkey, or any other place, with another headquarter in. We went to Georgia and Turkey because we could go there without visas as well. So there's a saying that is the Lebanese ecosystem hasn't disappeared, it's just not in Lebanon anymore. So maybe the new way of startups are being across the countries, and in order to be able to invest in such startups, we need to have a good network of investors that is also across countries as well. That was my input on what happened. So this paved the way for a lot of other initiatives. A lot of VC funds ended up establishing in the GCC in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and other regions. And the fund's thesis that they established was linking the gaps and bridging, for example, the GCC to Europe, Lebanon to the GCC. This established a way of a new thinking on how to invest in startups and how to attract investors. Do you have anything to add, Nina, from the point of view that what would be the next initiative of Business Angel of Slovenia or throughout your work into pushing the cross-border transaction more? Like we need to cooperate more together, cooperation like and organization like Angels of the Mediterranean need to be more present like them. We need to establish more organizations like this.
Yeah, so what we've done in our association was, first of all, the job on horizontal level and then on vertical level. So we said classical angel investing is not enough, so we built our standalone VC fund that is purely powered by business angels. So we offered our angels different mechanisms how to invest, because we educate them constantly, etc. And all the new ones that come in get introduction through all the verticals. So VC fund, then classical angel investing, then partnerships that are cross-border investments, and classical small, let's say, retail investments. So with that kind of strategy, you as an angel has an opportunity to do cross-border in many levels and in many ways. So we do all those 4 cross-border. Secondly, what is for me important is that if you're angel and you're investing only in a local ecosystem, your value is not as it should be. It's not so huge, because once you step onto the other side across the border, you get also not just respect, but the value as investor from on a startup side. Because startups are hungry, they should be hungry, and once they figure it out, okay, it's not only us, for instance, in Slovenia that they are looking for, suddenly new players came from USA, from UK, from Estonia. Okay, we need to fight for our life. The game changes, and this is really, really important. So it's also the classical approach of investor, what you're doing. What will be our next step? So we pretty much covered the Europe, UK, plus some of USA. We will do the next cross-border pitching event with Georgia, because Georgia is blooming, everything is happening there. So we are planning to do it within a month. Pitch event for cross-border sharing opportunities. What's the logic usually behind? We do invest only in cases that are supported by locals and vice versa. Because if they trust somebody, they are in a position of lead investor, we just match money. And once they will invest with us, they will match our investments with their money. And this is how you actually are not in any case lead investor, and the risk of fear of not knowing the local system there or not having the knowledge about different aspects is worthless, because you are trusting the person that is leading the deal. And maybe what was for us really also important is, it was mentioned before, we always check the tax logic behind the investments, not how the taxation looks like on the other side, but what that means in a case of exits for our angels. Because the exits are the key. We are doing cross-borders just because of the exits, because the value is much higher, not because of the investments as per se.
Yes, networking across region opens the way for exits, and it helps facilitate them, definitely. Paula, while discussing earlier on, you were asking about some startups here, for example, and what are some interesting stories we've heard, for example, here at Techni. So in Injaz, do you look for investments outside of Dubai? This is one. And what are the next steps of Injaz as well?
I think that I partially answered that earlier, but as I said, like for now, we're focusing mainly on public markets. And early next year, we are planning more of private equity. We haven't been focused actually in Dubai. It's mostly Europe and US. In terms of private equity, if we are looking just at the GCC region, I would say for me personally, and from what I had seen, Saudi Arabia is the most interesting market. And compared to Dubai, there are certain barriers to entry, but however, I see the opportunity there as way bigger. And maybe some interesting insights I can share, similar to what you shared about Lebanon. Just coming back from a conference there, and what I realized is the story is quite similar to Lebanon. In terms of the banks backing up the most successful startups and banks directly collaborating with the fintech firms instead of competing with them. And I think that this creates a very flourishing ecosystem for the fintechs. And not only, however, they have also the Vision 2030, under which vision they are planning to grow the fintech startups only to 525 companies and also open up around 18,000 new jobs. And this will contribute highly to the GDP of the country. So having specifically fintechs as one of the key goals of Vision 2030, I think is it's very interesting, and for investors also would be very attractive.
Thank you. Anything to add on this? What are the next steps for you across the regions?
Yeah, I'll speak specifically about just the Western Balkans, just because that's where most of the activity I'm focused on now, because there's a lot of momentum going. So, as I mentioned earlier, I was able to get the Serbian Business Angel Network. They're now part of IBAN. So now it's like, okay, how do we take this model that's starting to work and replicate it across the other countries in the Western Balkans? The other initiative that's taking place, speaking of cross-border investing and creating that connectivity, there's a group out of Montenegro, which is a very tiny country. I think there's 200,000 people, if I'm not mistaken. Beautiful mountains and oceans, though. So if you haven't visited, you should take a gander. But so they're building the Balkan Tech Fund. So I'll be spending some time with the folks next week. But it's going to be the first tech fund specifically dedicated to the Balkans. But the value add there is most of the LPs are going to be from the US and then parts of Europe. And their goal is to be able to get businesses within the Western Balkans, fund them, and then figure out how to scale them in larger markets. So they're building that connectivity right now. And small fund, it's 10 million, but it's a start for, there's 20 million people in the Balkan, but there's ton of tech talent, and there's a lot of really cool things being built. And me personally have really enjoyed seeing how it's evolved over the last 18 months from a place like Serbia where didn't have an angel group. Now they're part of a much larger group, and seeing some of the companies that out of their Tenderly, they recently raised, I think this was about 6 months ago, a 40 million Series B, which is massive for the region. So we look to hopefully see more of that, and then continue my work across the world at some point.
Thank you. Lachlan, anything else to add regarding cross-border investing from Aditum's perspective?
Not really. I mean, I would just sort of echo, we're a relatively new fund, so only 2 years into it. So, we're just going to keep trying to double down on our strategy, and we think that it's become more interesting as capital has dried up a little bit to be doing cross-border type stuff. To the comment earlier, we're being surprised actually how helpful we can be to regional startups. by the fact that we are also investing in the US and UK and Europe alongside investors there and making connections there. So I think we'll keep doing that. We've got 22 portfolio companies now, so we're really just trying to drive connectivity amongst them and amongst the investor network, because we find that it kind of helps us. And to your story of the phenomenon in Lebanon, we have 2 portfolio companies that sound exactly like what you described. Lebanese founders based elsewhere, building a business with the operations there for a cost and tech talent benefit. And we find those work really well. I mean, I would argue Dubai is too expensive for an investor to live in. It's pretty challenging to live in as a startup founder or an early employee. And so the models that we've actually seen work really well are where you're going after these, I'll call them richer markets, but you base your operations somewhere that's more cost effective. And so we really like that model.
Yeah, we've been seeing models, as you said, that are by nature cross-border. So the base is there, and you have models, for example, and funds thesis about, for example, immigrants funds, so where you would invest in immigrants in Europe with money from the country's origin. So the base is there. It's just about linking the dots together. I don't know about the audience if there are any questions regarding this or any input to add. So we discussed a little bit the challenges there, the more about also the opportunities that are present, but how to really link the dots there. Is there any question in this regard or any input to add? Okay, I think it was very clear there. Or there's nothing to add, maybe. Or it's not working. The cross-border is not working.
To what extent should cross-border be a part of any investment portfolio? Is it 5%? Is it 10? Is it something that can be 100%? Where would you all sit on that?
I'm happy to go first. I think it kind of depends on your size and access as well. It's a hard thing to do well. We're a small fund and we find it rewarding but really hard to do. If you're Andreessen Horowitz and you have a brand that can get you into any deal and an army of people, I think you should be looking for the best companies globally, even at the seed stage, which they do, right? They've come down market. As you get smaller, I think you want to be more focused. Now, maybe the thing that makes you different is that you invest in a specific sector across many markets, but it's very hard to be good at all things to all people. So that's a great way to sit on the fence.
Yeah, I'm in that camp as well. I think it just depends on what you're focusing on. You can't, because especially if you're a small fund, you can't spread yourself too thin, right? Because the other part of it is like, if you're investing in companies, how are you supporting them to make sure that they're successful? Especially in, I think it was like the panel before us, they were talking about how do you support first-time founders? It's difficult, right? So if you have to build the right mechanism and right support structure. Especially at the early stage, because if you got a smaller fund and you're investing in developing markets, I mean, it's the high likelihood is that you're investing in first-time founders. So, yeah, I think it's imperative that the fund, just taking the cross-border aspect into it, you can do it. Just make sure that you have the right structure in place.
I don't have anything too much to add. You already said it all. In terms of a fund, I fully agree. However, as an asset manager, I always support diversification of assets. So especially as an angel investor, I think that you have slightly more flexibility since that's our topic. It's a little bit different than a VC. And currently with all those angel networks opportunities that are out there, I don't see a reason to limit yourself. It can be 100% of the portfolio. As long as if you're specialist in the country where you're living, I would probably place a bigger part of my portfolio in that market and then the rest on an opportunistic basis.
Okay, and I have to add something smart in the end because everyone said already everything. But I would say that really depends what's the strategy of individual investor. Also depends of the country where you are based, because if, for instance, in our case, if you're part of small country, You need to diversify just for the sake of getting any better multiples out of investments. But in the end, it's like the same like with the founders. You need to define your, at least let's say, a benchmark, what's the value of your exits in the end, what you want to do with your money. So if you can do it locally because the pipeline is super healthy and you have quite good pool to choose from, it's fine, but in many cases this is not working, especially if you're really niche and really focus on something super trendy niche, then you need to go out and find it elsewhere, because already being niche is risk averse, so you have to do it non-locally to mitigate the risk.
Thank you, everyone. So go ahead.
Yeah, you pinpoint on my question, actually. I need to know what is the best legal and risk structure or framework that you are working in order to de-risk the cross-border investments.
I wouldn't be the best advocate in this with, with what's going on. We have a lot of legal complexities. What we do, we try to turn around it. So we establish the fund legally in another country, like in Cyprus, for example. We open our bank accounts in a third country, in Switzerland. We get our investors from our networks globally. And we today invest, so we changed one more thing. We invest not only in Lebanese startups, we invest in any startup that would add value to the local economy, whether by penetrating the market, whether by opening an office there, whether by sustaining the jobs that are in our country as well. So I guess for legally, there's no obstacle of just shopping around and looking where to establish your fund legally. And you can go to the operations anywhere you want. And this is my added value on this.
The only thing I'd add is that it's the same on the founder side. So on the fund side, this is not tax advice, but they're pass-through vehicles. It's useful to put them in tax-neutral jurisdictions, and there's plenty of those in this part of the world. We're actually set up in Luxembourg, because that's...
But I'm talking about the equity itself inside that startup.
So on the company side, what we tend to see, we've done a couple of investments in Egypt, and you can have your holdco anywhere, right? For here, it seems like Netherlands is common. In Dubai, we see Aditum, DIFC, Cayman, BVI. None of these companies are usually, that's not where their core operations are, right? So you can pick a holding company, and it's better to get this right early on, and then have your operating subsidiaries wherever they need to be, but choose a region that's respected by investors.
And founders' equity will be in the Irish company or in the Egyptian
wherever
company?
the holdco is. So what you'll usually do is establish a holding company. If you're a sole founder on day one, you have 100% of the shares in that company. If you need a company in a different country because you have operations there and you need employment visa, you create a 100% owned subsidiary. When investors come in, they come in at the holding company level, and so it's usually better to pick a jurisdiction that they are comfortable with, and that is where you'll also hold your equity alongside them.
But some countries preventing 100% share. What do you do with that?
We stick to regions where that's not an issue.
Okay.
Not tax advice.
If you have something.
No, it's like, no tax advice. Well, from a personal perspective, when I make angel investments, I make a strong ask that it's registered in US. Otherwise, I just won't invest in the company. It's too risky for me. And then, our fund, we're registered in the US and in Mexico, because that's where we manage the fund out of.
Until we reach to me, there is nothing left to say. I was going to say again the same thing. From founder's perspective, it's very important to have your holding company, and then you need to choose the holding company's location based on the jurisdiction that is mostly favorable for the type of business you're doing, right? Before, BVI used to be a very popular place, for example, and now it became very not very complicated, but relatively more complex than it used to be. So that's all. You need to choose where the IP will be held. There are particular investors that are avoiding US, contrary complementary to what you're doing. So based on even the region from which you want to fundraise, you need to base your holding company to be comfortable jurisdiction, both for the purpose that you're setting it in and also for the investors that you're planning to bring on board.
And in our case, we do invest in European countries, we do invest in UK companies or structures and USA. For any EU citizen, it's super complicated to invest through the offshore bank accounts, so no Cayman Island, nothing, because then you have a problem with taxation, because it's differently treated. Also, you can get quite many gray hairs with paying the investment, so with transactions, because usually they are not possible even to, it's not even possible to do them as a EU citizen. So we are not doing any kind of this stuff except USA Classic, for instance, Delaware company headquarter and then subsidiaries in Europe. Why? Because majority of those companies are having next step as a kind of go-to-market strategy to go to some global market, which in many cases is USA, in some of them also Asia, then we do the settlement in Singapore. So quite, let's say, classical approach, but is suitable for our investors in the end of, or at the exit step. So it's the same pretty much with the funds.
Thank you.
Anything else someone want to know about? Okay, thank you for the panelists. Thank you everyone really for sharing your experiences. I guess cross-border investing is there. It's about dotting the I's a little bit. And definitely a lot of key factors of success, like the infrastructure needs to be there. The networking has to grow bigger and bigger, so we just have to join hands. And it's here to, this is the future, I guess. This is the nature, this is the natural way of things and how they are going. Thank you very much for listening to us.